Welcome back to the Shadow Business Guest Podcast. And in our fourth episode, we have a really exciting guest with us. I really cannot wait for you to meet her. And we already had a pre conversation. And I said, stop, we have to record because we were just talking and talking. With me, I have Izabela Skarzynska. And she is helping high achieving people who look successful on the outside, but actually feel exhausted, disconnected, or lost on the inside. And she's helping them through deep mindset work, emotional work, spiritual work. She will talk about that all in the episode. And she guides them back to themselves so they can rebuild their life from alignment instead of burnout. Isn't that perfect? Welcome, Isabella.
Hello, thank you very much for such a wonderful introduction of my person. And thank you very much for having me today with you on your amazing podcast.
Thank
Thank you
you
very
so
much.
much.
And hello, everyone.
It was so much fun because I heard you say I never no other guest has said this before, but maybe they have, that you said that you listened to my podcast as well, and that you actually saw quite a lot of hooks that you thought, oh, this is me. So we're going to have probably a very fun conversation. Um, Isabella, let's just start at the beginning because we've been speaking about this before, but you're from Poland and you are currently living in the UK. Maybe it has something to do with that, with the question that I have right now, because nobody goes into healing without needing to heal first. So, if you could share with me what was for you the turning point where you thought, okay, now I have to do something different, or what, or were it maybe multiples, or what was something that you thought, okay, yeah, now I really want to do different work than I did before.
That's a very good question. So my journey was a bit hard and long journey. And what's happening in the past, I was brought up as being a high achiever and the person who always needs to achieve, push, and be successful.
Mhm.
And that was my pretty whole my life. And the turning point of my own healing journey and understanding what's beneath the surface and why I was that person and what was driving me and what shaped me was my anxiety, clinical depression, and also chronic insomnia and total nervous breakdown.
Okay, that's a lot.
And yes, that's a lot. And that was in my mid 20s.
Mm,
And this was my turning point in my whole life and also in my personal spiritual journey.
mm.
That gave me a lot of understanding
Yeah,
where I was coming from,
yeah,
what I was tied to, what patterns
yeah,
and what programs I had inherited,
yeah.
what trauma I had in the past, and also what trauma of my ancestors, of my parents, or my grandparents, or my generation
Mhm.
shaped me who I was before until that turning point in my life. So when this happened, I went on a very deep journey of self healing, self developing, and self growing as a person, as a human, as a soul.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful as a soul. Ooh, yeah. Okay, there might be a podcast coming on that as well because I'm also obsessed with soul missions and everything. Okay, um, but
Yes, I am too,
yeah,
about the lessons and
yes,
purpose.
yeah. What are you meant to do here? And so, mid-20s, were you still living in Poland back then?
This was just when I arrived to UK. I arrived to UK when I was 19 years old. I
Mm,
left everything in Poland. I went to the university. I meant to become a nurse. But saying that, this was always a dream of my mom.
mm,
And that was her unfulfilled
mm,
wish and dream to become a nurse.
mm.
So I stepped into it and I went there and I spent about 6 months at the university and I felt deep down that that's not my path.
No.
And I said to myself, no, I can't carry on. And I had that courage to say no to it and leave Poland and came just to UK and to explore, to meet different people, to become independent. But also, I didn't know that the journey in UK will awaken so many things in me.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be my true upbringing in here and going through all the ups and downs, trying to figure out who I am and what I want. So this happened when I was in UK.
Yeah. And so you actually left, you had to leave because you couldn't stay in Poland because probably it was all too too close by, and you thought, no, 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 I have to find my own path. And maybe you were even distracted in Poland, which I can totally understand. You just thought, no, 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 I'm going to find my own path. But
Absolutely.
that's just the first step, right? You think when you are 19, you're thinking, oh, that's just all I have to do. And then
I didn't
you'll
understand, but
start.
I felt deep down this is
Yes.
the way. This
Yeah.
is what I sometimes
It's
we just
strange.
don't yes, we don't
Yeah.
understand, but
Yeah.
we have this voice, inner voice. Some people call this intuition,
Yeah.
some people call this God, some
Yeah.
universe. This is our internal voice
Yeah.
that is always leading us.
Yeah.
But when we have it like too much in our heads and we just go in quick and fast and we don't pause in life, this is sometimes when we being forced
Yeah.
to actually
Exactly.
pause.
Yeah. And to actually do it. And yeah, it's interesting because actually you can't really explain it. When I was 22, I really wanted to do an internship in New York City. I mean, I can imagine because it was so much fun and I did it, right? But I don't, people were asking me why. Why would you do all that hassle? Because it costs a lot of money. I had to fill out all those forms, right? It was really difficult. I'd send out 100 applications, all those things. I don't care. I just have to do this, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. When you've got this inner calling, you don't even understand. Sometimes you just need to enter in unknown.
Yeah.
Because what I truly believe in unknown, there is the room for growth.
I love that. I love that. Yes, it is.
We never grow in a comfort zone.
No, no. But it's interesting. I never thought of the comfort zone. So kind of the opposite of the comfort zone being in another country. Interesting.
I never thought this myself. I never thought before this going to be my path, you
Yeah,
know? This
of
this
course.
this just happened
Yeah,
and
it
I
just
just
happened.
followed.
Yeah, yeah. You were led. You were led by yourself, but also something else. And so you were a high achiever. Obviously, you spoke about that you wanted to, well, and you probably still want to really follow your mother's dream, but you just can't. And most of the time, high achievers are people who are very loyal to their mothers. And I was wondering, because I have actually spent some episodes on this, right? And that women mainly do have this desire, and most children really have the desire um, to be good to their parents, to be nice to their parents. This is also why when people actually are in no contact with their parents, it's always very difficult actually for the child to decide. You know, it's not just like that. People don't just do it like that, right? But how would you say right now, we're taking a big jump and we'll talk more about in the in between, but how would you say right now you um how do you say that? Not compare yourself to your mother, but are positioned with your mother? How does the bond, how does it go now?
I mean, my mom passed away 7 years ago.
Okay, I'm sorry to
Uh,
hear.
Thank you. So I'm a kind of fine right now, but sometimes I just miss her so much. But
Yeah.
I truly believe in the spirit world, so
Yeah.
I always try to talk to her and just give me the signs. So
Yes.
I know she is around me all the time,
Okay, yeah,
helping
sure.
me
So, yeah,
navigating.
my mother also passed away, right? So I also feel this.
Oh,
So yeah,
sorry.
no,
Yeah.
it's okay. But it's, and so I completely understand what you're speaking about. So even if it's in the spiritual form, how do you see your mother right now?
I see my mom as very beautiful and strong lady.
Hmm.
And in the past, I was looking at her like she's weak because I didn't understand. I didn't
Yeah.
understand what she was going through. And I never ever had a good contact with my mom when I was younger. I always argue with her, and I
Yeah.
didn't know why am I arguing with her. But through my own journey, especially through the family constellations as
Yeah.
well as a part of this growth, I've understood what was behind it
Yeah.
and how my relationship with my mother was also affected by the relationship with my father.
Yeah. Of course.
And
Was
how
it a good relationship you had with your father then, or not?
I didn't really have a good relationship with my father because he wasn't with us all the time. He was working.
Hmm.
But this is something that really shaped me as a woman in in my late 20s and early 30s,
Hmm.
because the father and daughter relationship can be a little bit tricky.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have too much access to my dad as well, but when I had it, I was this little girl for my dad,
Yeah.
and there was always like my dad was saying yes, my mom was saying no,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this caused so many different, like, hard situation between me and my mom because
Yeah. Were you standing in her place?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I was standing as a partner and
Yeah.
rescuer to my dad.
Okay. Yeah.
And
You've done the work, I can tell. So it's nice to have a conversation at this level. Yes.
yes. And I kind of found this on the way of my self-growth and understanding. This is why I never had a good connection with my mom. But once I stepped into this healing
Yeah.
and discovering myself, my mom was alive at that
Hmm.
time. My relationship with her started changing slightly.
Yeah.
So especially after when we actually had car accident together.
Ooh.
Yes, this situation made us closer to each other, but because I started to understand that she was going through really hard life, and I was really, the partner of my dad,
Yeah.
which affected my relationship with the partners
Yeah.
which I had in the past as well.
Oh, yes. Of course.
It affects everything
Yeah.
in life,
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, I started to look at my mom differently.
Mhm.
But the real different look was a few years after when she passed away. And I remember myself lying in the bed and crying like a baby, saying like, "Oh, mom, you were such a strong, beautiful woman, and I haven't seen this because I couldn't. My loyalty was more towards my dad than
Yeah.
my mom,
Yeah.
and all of the situations, the words that parents talk about themselves, they blur your eyes.
Yeah.
And then you just see your parents through the words of your parents
Yeah.
and also through the words of your grandparents
Yeah.
and everyone around it, like the family. And I've understood so much. And I was still talking to her, and even though she is in spiritual realm, like, I'm so happy and glad she was my mom.
Yeah.
And I
That's
was,
beautiful. Ooh, I really
yes,
like that. I actually never heard someone say that like that. But it's actually, yes, what a beautiful insight to have. What a gift.
yes, absolutely, because I truly believe that the mother is our success
Yeah.
on all levels.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yes. And this is what I also see in my clients when we do deep work. I sometimes use the constellation, sometimes I don't, and use different techniques, but I recognize the patterns.
Yeah.
I recognize the dynamics that are behind it.
Yeah. 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 And that's the thing. And so with, you know, I created a hypnosis also on this specifically for saying yes to life means saying yes to your mother. And because your mother gave your life.
Absolutely.
And also this can also, you can also even connect this to money. Having money means staying alive. You need money to survive, right? So if somebody, for instance, comes to me with a money block, I always look at the relationship with their mother as well, right? Not just the only thing, but because of this, because it's so important to really feel that. And I love that you have experienced that, because through saying that, I am so glad that she is my mother. You're actually saying I'm so glad I am me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But in
think
the
it's beautiful too.
past, I wasn't this way.
Yeah.
I was always saying that I'm never gonna be like mom.
Of
And
course.
that,
Of course, because she triggered the hell out of you.
yes, absolutely. And I always was saying that. And then I remember once for the first time I had the constellation with someone that was
Mhm.
actually the guy, and he said to me, just try to say, Mom, I'm like you. And oh my gosh, I couldn't say
No,
this. It couldn't go
no.
through my throat. Absolutely everything
Strange, huh?
stuck there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I was so like, no.
Yeah. And did you do it in the end, or did you have to do some other things before you could do that?
I did it a little bit, but I
Yeah.
still didn't feel
No.
it. And then when I was actually learning more about the constellation, but I also learned from very smart woman, and she's Polish, and she's from Poland. She doesn't do like Hellinger's constellation,
Hmm.
but she explains a lot.
Yeah.
And I've done like 500 hours webinars with her, and I was applying everything on myself. I was like, I don't even know if this is mine or no, but I'm still gonna do it to
Yeah.
make sure that I'm gonna release what I need to release. And through that journey and applying these hours and hours of the constellations
Yeah.
with my dad, with my mom,
Yeah.
that's where this understanding came.
Yeah.
That's where this understanding came, and that's where I actually felt inside, and I was even saying sorry, like in a spirit world, to my mom that I was so crazy when I was a teenager, but because I didn't understand. I
No.
was just, yeah, I was just following what I've been programmed with and what I've learned and how I was shaped and conditioned
Yeah.
during my upbringing.
Yeah.
That's all I knew it.
Of course, that's all you know, and also especially if you're in half 20. So when you're 25, you're completely sorry, cognitively developed. So that's actually actually the only time I feel. Of course, you can do therapy when you're younger, but actually that's the perfect moment, and that's also probably why you collapsed because you thought, okay, all the puzzle pieces are together. It doesn't match. I'm going to implode. So and so when because the people who are listening to this, right, they are because what I love so much about your application, because I asked all the guests to apply, obviously, and I had to make a selection because there were many people interested in speaking on the podcast, which I'm very honored about. But in your application, you said that you wanted to have a more open, that women felt more open to have this conversation, of course not just on a podcast but maybe also personally and all those things. But what was for you when you were 25 or half 20 and you said, okay, I can't do this any longer? And then what did you do to change that? Did you go into therapy, or did you speak with a lot of people? What did you do? Because if people are doing this for the first time or maybe the second time and don't really know what to do.
So with me, I was actually more forced
Mm-hmm.
to, but not forced by someone outside,
Yeah.
but forced by my soul, I would say.
Yeah.
And I felt like I've been in a deep end. So I couldn't clearly think at that time what's happening to me. So
Yeah.
my journey started like conventional journey. So I went on medication because I lost sleep.
Yes. Okay. Right.
I couldn't, I slept barely like maybe hour or 2 hours a
Wow.
day. And I was so exhausted.
Of
I
course.
didn't know what's going on with me. So I had to go with the route of medication because of that state I was in already.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, I felt strongly in my body there is something more to this.
Of course. Of
And
course.
then I started to looking for it.
Yeah.
So the
How?
first, how?
Yeah.
This inner calling from my
Yeah.
soul
Yeah.
was guiding me, and I started doing research about the different type of things, of therapies, energy work. I was just guided, and I had few sessions with the clinical psychologist because that was when I was on the
Yeah,
medications.
of
I
course.
start
Yeah,
off.
you need to do that. Yeah.
But after that, I felt like, oh, yes, I'm fine. Oh, good. Oh, good. I'm fine. And then when I came out of the medication after 6 months, all of the sudden I had the relapse.
Yeah, of course.
So I started to understand, the medications are here just to help me to get to the certain level, but they're
Yeah.
not going to heal me.
No.
I need to find the root.
Yeah.
So this was just like, I would say my soul's wisdom was guiding me. And then the first turning point was energy healing.
What and
So
so what is that? Because I know a lot about energy healing, everything, but I always feel like so many people are saying it differently. What is it to you?
So the energy healing was healing on all levels at the same time through the channeling of the energy. And because people has a different visions of what energy healing
Yes.
is. So when I for the first time heard about this, I was so scared. Seriously, for 1 year, I haven't done anything with this because I was so scared. Because usually what we looking into it is something we can see.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this you can't see, you can feel, and you need to go through it to experience.
And maybe you were also scared because you knew it was going to be the lever for you.
And it's going to change me because deep down we feel when the change approach.
Yes.
And of course, our ego is doing everything
Yeah.
to stop us from the change.
Yeah. As it should. It's job, but yeah, it's not really helping in the healing, but oh, that's so beautiful. Okay, so you stayed away for one
Absolutely.
year from it. Yes. And then
Yes.
what happened?
And then I found someone on the internet and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna give a shout. I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
I was suicidal. I didn't want to leave. I'm like, whatever.
Okay.
I have nothing to lose.
All
So
right.
I went there, I met my master teacher at that time, and she gave me one session. And for the first time in my life, I felt safe
Yeah.
and I felt like I'm home.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain this feeling because it's something I felt inside. Even if my mind was crazy and was giving me lots of different talks and was trying to talk me out of this,
Yeah.
my heart and my soul felt like home.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay,
And
I
was
need
it
to
a
take
feeling, sorry that I interrupt, was it a feeling that you've never experienced before?
absolutely 100%.
Even not when you were at home, I don't know,
Never.
as a child. So this was also a completely new feeling to you.
Yes, it was completely new feeling. I never had that before in my life because I had lots of experiences where I was traumatized. I had to run, I had to protect myself as a child. So this for the first time was like, oh my God, I'm home. I didn't understand with my mind, but I
No.
felt in my body.
Right. Yeah.
And I said to my master teacher, I said, you know what? I need to know all of this. I need to learn
Yeah.
it, and I'm taking responsibility for my own health
Yeah.
and for my own growth.
Beautiful.
And once I did my first course, I was applying this all day, non-stop, where I only had the chance to channel the energy. And it wasn't an easy journey because I had to face myself. I had to face my, pardon me, my bullshit
Yeah.
and the things that I've been, conditioned with.
Yeah.
But I also start discovering the beautiful things about myself
Yeah.
that I never seen
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. That's the fun part.
Yes,
In the
and see
beginning,
the
it's
gifts.
scary, right? It's scary to
Absolutely.
see that as well because you never saw it or you hid it. And then because, yes, okay, doing this work, you face your bad parts, but it's also the more beautiful part. So it's bigger on each end.
Absolutely, it is. And this was my opening door. This is why I published the book about this, the magic of healing touch, because I was so fascinated and I wanted to share this with other people in the world. Like, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Don't read up on internet because sometimes you've got misleading information.
Yeah.
It's true, real gift, and energy healing can help you on your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual level at the same time. And I was going deeper and deeper into the journey, going through next level, and become a master teacher myself.
Yeah. I see
And then
1,000 certifications behind you.
Yes, because every single certificate I've got like more on that side, on the other
Okay.
side. But that was my own journey.
Yeah.
That was my own
Yes.
journey to find myself, and every single certificate is my life and changer and lifesaver.
Yeah. Oh,
I
that's
never,
beautiful.
yes, I never done this for anything else because at that time when I started, I never knew it, this going to be my path.
No, you have no idea. Right. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's interesting because I also followed a course and have a certification and many I was actually doing it for my job, right? So I was a business coach and I noticed that some people I could help them, but sometimes I couldn't help them and I wanted to get the tools, right? But actually, it was also very much, of course, a self development. And that was also my training was very much about. So it's really about getting to know yourself better, even. And this was also, it was interesting because during the course, my mother actually passed away. So it was, of course, not perfect, but it was actually the perfect condition because, of course, I was very confronted with myself. And actually I really don't wish it to have been different, right? But it's true. Actually, getting the certifications, getting the knowledge is just really perfect for you. And sometimes, when you're a psychologist or when you're a therapist or a psychiatrist, how do you say? Did you had a good
Yes,
name for
yes,
it? Yeah,
hi,
like when
yes.
you study medicine, um, the self is barely touched, and I feel with the healing, yeah, the teacher needs to. I mean, you don't have to be perfectly healed, right? But at least you have to understand that that downfall that we've all been. You have to understand that. You have to went through it, and then also know how to help different people, right? With the tools that you've taught, been taught.
And that's another thing that you just mentioned. You don't have to be perfectly healed.
No.
And that's very important as well, because very often people they look at the therapists or they look at the healers or mentors and coaches that they look at them like with the authority of being someone perfect,
Yeah.
but that's not the case.
No.
We all human
Yeah.
and we all have our missions in life and roles to play in here in this lifetime. But I truly believe that we can never be 100% healed because our
No.
soul wouldn't be here.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's when your life ends. And
Yeah,
yeah,
the
and
physical form of
yeah,
our life.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, that sorry, yes, no, yeah, sorry, you corrected me, right? No, but that's the thing, and so it is. But you can be a few steps ahead, or you can have, been through a few things that just right now, right before our recording, I spoke to a woman. I'm going to work with her. She's 28 years old. I'm 40, and she spoke about her, and she's actually an employee, so she's not even a business owner, but she thought, I think you can help me. And then she was talking about these things, and I said, yes, of course I can help you, because this is exactly what I've been going through, right? And I'm further ahead also in years, so yeah, of course I'm the perfect coach, but I'm not a perfect person. You can't be.
We're still going through our own lives and
Yeah.
experiences and lessons and struggles.
Yeah.
We all have ups and downs, and
Yeah.
it's not like sometimes people believe when they step into spiritual path
Yeah.
they no longer have any problems and issues and they
No.
just all the time happy, smiley,
No.
and like life goes on. And I
Yeah.
always say no, the
No.
more and the deeper
Yeah.
you go,
Yeah.
the more you need to learn and the more hard situation you get in your life and the
Exactly.
challenges either in your life or in your business, in your relationships,
Yeah.
because you are being tested.
Exactly. Yes, you are. That's really wonderfully put. Sometimes I'm a little bit jealous. So, for instance, of my mother, that she never went into therapy. She just did not believe in it. Well, of course, guess why I had to do all this work, right? But I was also jealous of her, because I thought, oh, you get to do this just, without, just. you it doesn't really matter to you. And it's I think also some not everybody has to go into therapy or has to heal if they don't want to, right? They have the freedom to do so.
Absolutely, but I also believe that if it is your path, the soul will do anything to direct you back on that. And sometimes we can fight and sometimes we can run away, but we can't really run away from ourselves.
No.
And we can sometimes avoid this inner work for some period of time,
Yeah.
but that's what happened to me as well when I was like, okay, I've done so long, I've healed myself, and I was working for like 16 years on myself, and all of a sudden some even recently. And at the first I was so angry. I was like, oh my God, how long? How much? Enough.
Hmm.
And but the life just put the wall in front of me to the point like you're either gonna look inside or you're gonna try to push it harder. But anyway, you're not gonna go anywhere.
Well, if you're going to push it harder or if you're going to push it away, you're going to accept that certain things, certain limitations in your life. And I think as a perfect example, my mother did that. And yeah, it's it's either one or the other, right? And yeah, I think it's really, really fascinating.
But that was exactly the same with my mom.
Of course.
She was finding herself maybe or her peace in a church. She
Yes.
never was into this kind of stuff, and when I went into it, she was looking at me very strange.
Yeah.
She couldn't even like,
Yeah.
she didn't support that at that time. But I
Yeah.
believe her spiritual journey was more towards church, and maybe that was her way of putting up with the things that were happening with
Yeah.
her inside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and or at least in the Netherlands, uh, religion was fading. It's actually coming up again. Mostly the Christian religion, um, and it's interesting because that's also what we want to do as human beings, right? We want to give meaning to our life. We want to contextualize it. We want to understand it, and that's what the institution of religion does. But I think the work that we do is less institutionalized and more focused on the individual, less focused on, the collective, and or really just having a deity and having this one source, but saying no, 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 it's multiple things, right? And sometimes that, yeah, it can be scary to do it a different way, but you just couldn't do it any different.
Absolutely. And I also believe that there is so many different techniques
Yeah.
and healing modalities that people can use it for themselves. They can choose from psychology, like this, like psychological, sessions. They can go into constellations. They can go into energy. They can go to crystals or a
Yeah.
multidimensional healing or whatever they choose, like recall healing. There is so much into it, but the most important thing is to give yourself permission
Yeah.
to try and to give yourself a time to go with it, because sometimes we expecting that whole life will change within one session. This
Yeah.
is what I personally love doing, is doing the transformational work.
Yeah.
3 months, six
Yeah.
months of working
Yeah.
together.
Me too.
Absolutely, because this is where we give the value. This is
Yeah.
where we give in the real transformation.
Yeah.
This is where we give in people what they really need.
Yeah.
And if you jump from one session to another session, one this, one that, you never ever will experience the real true transformation that 3, 6 months or 1 year can give it to you.
Yeah. No, definitely. I really agree. But it's also people would like to get, the best for less, of course. I mean, as you should. It's also a survival technique, so it's very smart. But in the end, it's not, because you want it to really work, and probably we attract the same kind of clients because they value that. And the other ones, yeah, they're going to people who give them one life in one lifetime session and then they're healed. Yeah, fine. They can do that. It's also good, right? I mean, we live in kind of a free world, so people are free to choose.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
what I also notice is then they become frustrated
Yeah, of
because
course.
they try this, they try this, they try this, and then they're saying, "Oh, it's not working.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not working the way I thought it's going to work."
But do you feel like you need to help those people, or can you also just say, okay, yeah, if that's not it, then
Previously, I always wanted to help everyone
yeah.
because I'm also numerically number nine, which
I
is,
don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
the number
Explain
nine.
me.
We've got like numerology,
Yeah.
and through the numerology, you can, through your date of birth, you can find out what number you are,
Okay.
and behind this, you can figure out also um, what's behind and what characteristics you have, and of course, on a positive and negative. I mean, I don't like saying bad, good, or positive, negative because everything is real positive, but we need to say sometimes that okay, when you go in this way or that way, so this is plus, this is minus.
Hmm.
So you can figure out what number you are, and this number is telling your path as well. And mine is number nine, which means I came to this lifetime to serve people,
Yeah.
to be a teacher, to be a guide through my own journey. This is why the
Oh,
people who are like a 9 for 11 or 22, they usually got a lot of like hard situation in their life.
yeah.
They're going through a lot, only because then they lead people from also the experience, not
Yeah.
only from the knowledge, but from the like inner wisdom and stuff.
Hmm.
And they call that number nine is the old souls. So the old
Yeah.
souls that, have a, some people don't believe in this. I truly believe in
Hmm.
incarnation, and we have a different lifetimes.
Yeah.
So even if I didn't want to do it, this is written in the
Yeah.
stars, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yes. So you do feel kind of responsible to, so to say, for one's healing or one's path because it's what you're meant to do.
But with saying that in the past, I was trying to help everyone.
Yeah.
I was, and when I started, I didn't understand what's mean real work and what's mean rescuing people. But I had
Yeah.
to understand the dynamics behind it and release them. So I'm not rescuing everyone. I'm only working with people who are ready for that depth of work.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Because when we're trying to work with people who are not ready, or who they
Yeah.
stay like in being a child, it's
Yes.
very hard work to do.
Definitely. And you just can't, right? You also have one life. I mean, you have more lives, right? But it's, it's
Yeah,
currently you have this life and you can only do so much, right? We also have all 24 same hours and I would agree. And it's also better for the soul, I believe, to do things that you're that are also easy.
absolutely.
Okay, Isabella, I'm looking at the time and I said, yeah, well, we're just maybe 20, maybe 30 minutes, but we're far beyond. But yeah, I feel like we could talk another 3 hours, but we
Yes.
won't do that to you, dear listeners. Well, maybe we should call this for a continuation in one shape or form because I feel like we barely scratched the surface. But for now, Isabella, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And it was really nice to talk to you. And like you said, maybe we can extend it. Maybe we can talk about this
Yes.
more. Who knows? Thank you very much. You're such a wonderful lady. And I love your podcast. So I highly recommend to anyone who is listening just to jump in and listen, because there is so much wisdom in it.
Thank you so much. You're so kind. Thank you so much, Isabella. I'm going to close the episode and and then I'll come back to you for a second. All right. Thank you so much for listening to the Shadow Business Guest Podcast. Thank you for joining me here with this wonderful story of Isabella. And I feel like, yeah, we've spoken actually about so many things, but also so many things we haven't spoken. So there might be a part two or anything like that. So each week on Tuesday, there's a new guest coming. Actually, it's something new that I've tried doing. This is part 4, and there's going to be a few more guests coming up, and you can listen to my regular episodes, which are coming every Thursday morning. So if you've liked this podcast, do shout out also to Isabella. I will put her information in the show notes as well. And also let me know, give it a nice 5-star review, and hope to see you next week or this Thursday. Bye.
Bye.